For decades, American stealth technology ruled the skies unchallenged. Radar-evading aircraft that other nations could only dream of replicating. Then, in 2019, as crowds cheered the 70th anniversary of communist rule during a military parade in Beijing, an angular silhouette emerged. Charcoal gray and tailless, its smooth surfaces absorbed light rather than reflecting it. Defense experts froze, and shrouded exhaust rolled past reviewing stands, revealing the unmistakable hallmarks of advanced radar evasion. In one calculated reveal, China had unsheathed its hidden blade. They had become the innovator, and the skies would never belong to America alone again. Breaking cover and the internet. In September 2013, a mysterious unmanned aerial vehicle was spotted buzzing toward the Senkaku Islands. Knowing the culprit was likely China, Japan responded by scrambling some of its most modern fighter jets and issuing a powerful warning to anyone who dared again enter the area. As expected, Beijing fired back by calling the nation's threat an act of war, escalating the situation further by declaring an air defense identification zone over the heavily contested East China Sea. Only weeks later, China answered to the rising tensions once again, not with words nor warnings, but with a fully functioning, jet-powered flying wing drone prototype. That same November, low-resolution footage of strange and angular aircraft was published in Chinese social media. For 20 whole minutes, this sleek, tailless, and charcoal gray model was shown taxiing, taking off, and briefly lifting into the air. Not long after came the official confirmation through state-run channels that this model was none other than the Lijian, or Sharp Sword, China's first stealth unmanned combat aerial vehicle. According to these heavily controlled sources, the flight of the Sharp Sword marked China's third indigenous stealth aircraft in 3 years, following the J-20 Mighty Dragon and J-31 Falcon Eagle stealth fighter jets. Since their publication, the footage and images have rippled across the internet from defense blogs and forums, all trying to dissect the grainy footage frame by frame to play a guessing game of this model's capabilities, mission profiles, payload capacity, and production intent. The Sharp Sword's design, wingspan, and lack of vertical surfaces all pointed to radar evasion or stealth. Western analysts compared it to the American X-47B drone, at the time being tested by the United States Navy for aircraft carrier operations. In contrast, others pointed at its similarities to France's Neuron tech demonstrator project. To many, this was definitely a work of a clever reverse-engineered version of Russia's Mikoyan-Scott unmanned aerial vehicle, stemming from the frequent collaborations between Moscow and Beijing. According to analyst Rick Fisher, the surprise flight, quote, demonstrates the enormous investment that China is making toward building a world-class level of military power. However, after this significant announcement, Beijing offered no additional footage or program details. Instead, just like in the video, the aircraft lifted off, made a brief pass, then disappeared from public view for the next few years, only to reappear more capable than before. The big reveal. After 6 years of silence, in October 2019, the Sharp Sword re-emerged not in grainy footage, but in full daylight and in front of a cheering crowd. At a massive and elaborate parade celebrating the 70th anniversary of the People's Republic of China and the People's Liberation Army, for the very first time, the world got a clear look at the nation's latest stealth unmanned combat aerial vehicle. Though this was the same platform first spotted in 2013 as Lijian, the talking heads on China Central Television gave the game away during their parade commentary. Just as the model rolled by, they let slip that the drone's new full military designation was Gongji 11, the Chinese word for attack. Now, this unmanned aircraft's true purpose was official, a strike weapon designed to fly where fighter pilots dare not go. While the drone's shape was unmistakably similar to the one seen all those years before, the airframe had been completely reworked. Now, the body was more streamlined, its surfaces refined, and its once exposed exhaust now hidden within a wide, shrouded outlet designed to reduce both radar and thermal signature. A month later, at the Zhuhai Air Show, China's largest and most high-profile air show, a Seoul Gongji 11 appeared again, this time on static display. The Sharp Sword was not alone. Parked alongside it were some of the nation's latest advanced weapons systems, like roadmobile ICBM, a hypersonic missile, a high-speed drone, and an underwater drone. With high-definition photos finally available, experts on site quickly deliberated that it's highly likely that the GJ-11 shown during the Beijing parade was a mock-up of an upgraded version still under development, rather than a fully operational aircraft. Since then, rumors have continued to swirl about the sharp sword's specific capabilities. Early reports suggested it might pack a serious punch, supposedly able to carry two 2,000-pound bombs tucked away in hidden internal bays. Word has it the drone might even use satellite connections to strike targets far beyond China's shores and into American-monitored areas. Much more recently, as the sharp sword once again disappeared from view, whispers in defense circles suggest that Chinese naval commanders are eyeing a version of the sharp sword, built not for bombing runs, but for carrier-based reconnaissance, a scout that flies ahead, sees first, and vanishes. And there may be confirmation that those whispers bear some truth. Daisy chain. In mid-2023, satellite imagery from a large and sprawling carrier deck, likely that of the Type 003 Fujian class, showed the unmistakable profile of a full-scale mock-up of the GJ-11. However, its location tells a whole new story, as the pictures were taken at the land-based training facility in Wuhan, the same site where China has long rehearsed its most crucial naval flight operations. In the series of sharp aerial photos, which filtered through open-source channels, the drone was placed at the forward edge of the deck. Work atop carrier mock-ups is used to assess how aircraft might operate at sea, including their deck placement, movement, and integration into carrier flight operations. This development might well be the strongest suggestion so far that the GJ-11, or a modified variant of some kind, is intended to be a key player in China's up-and-coming carrier air wing. If completed, this would provide the nation with a capability not currently known to be pursued by the United States Navy, the stealth strike drone, carrier-launched, built for contested zones too dangerous for manned aircraft. A naval version of the GJ-11 stealth drones could act as the carrier's eyes, flying far ahead to spot threats while staying invisible to radar. Their sneaky design would let them get much closer to enemy ships without being detected. Even more powerful, the fleet of several GJ-11s could create a chain, passing target information from drone to drone all the way back to the Chinese fleet. This so-called daisy chain method would be nearly impossible to jam and doesn't rely on satellites that might get knocked out in the opening minutes of a war. The sharp swords into the future. The latest developments of this model suggest the GJ-11 is closer than ever to being finished. Only a year later, the sharp sword is moving again. Throughout late 2024, satellite imagery and long-range footage captured a surge of activity around Chinese drone testing facilities in northwestern China, where the now familiar flying wing shape was seen taxiing, repositioning, and sometimes lifting into the haze over remote airbases. From this new series of once again viral images, observers noted subtle structural tweaks, tighter access panels, reshaped intakes, and what looked like sensor mounts along the forward body, just enough to suggest that the configuration is still evolving and adapting to China's needs. Now, with these latest moves in the last 2 years, and more frequent sorties, according to tracking data, analysts believe the sharp sword is now being integrated into broader PLA joint drills, and the rehearsal of precision strike runs, electronic suppression, or forward ISR rolls under actual conditions are now closer than ever. What comes next for this Chinese drone is more challenging to pin down. The exact payload remains a mystery. There's no confirmed footage showing what the GJ-11 can actually carry, how far it can reach while armed, or whether it can deploy advanced standoff weapons. But as China's manned stealth programs mature at a never-before-seen speed, the sharp sword may soon be joined by even more capable machines. Some believe its design, or parts of it, could be shared with fellow sanctioned nations or proxies. Others point to Russia, where developments like the Okhotnik B and PAC-DA bomber seem to echo shapes already flying in Chinese skies. Finally, there's the AI factor, which has rocked the entire world, and China is no exception. With billions poured into machine autonomy, the People's Liberation Army is building unmanned systems that might soon decide their own targets, fly their own missions, and adapt mid-flight. The The sharp sword may just be the start of something faster, smarter, and far harder to see coming.